I'm just reading this off of IMDb. But that was one of the filmmakers that I discovered today. Josh Olson and Joe Dante interviewed Alexi Wasser on their podcast, The Movies That Made Me. And I was listening to that today, and I'd never heard of Alexi Wasser, but she definitely likes a lot of the films that I like. If you don't know that show, check it out. The Movies That Made Me. They bring a guest on and they ask them to talk about 10 movies, their top 10 greatest hits kind of thing, and then the conversations sort of flow in and out, around that structure. But it kind of a Flashdance and Pretty in Pink, and a few of these movies were on the list of Alexi Wasser. But she's got this movie called Messy coming out. And I normally, when I read I went on IMDb later and I read the plot, right? And the plot is Messy follows the life of brutally self-aware, promiscuous love addict Stella Fox, who moves to New York after a devastating breakup and all her disappointing romantic dalliances over the course of a summer. I don't know. That wouldn't normally grab me, but if you listen to the director and actor Alexi Wasser talk about it and her influences, then I'm really curious to see what this movie is going to be like. So I don't know. I'll just leave that there. But yeah, so my day today, how did that begin? My day began at 7:25 a.m. I got out of bed, had a cup of coffee, drove to the school, taught the kids about editing. They're deep into their final films. Everything's culminated to this 5/8 film project, 5 minutes long to, minimum to 8 minutes maximum. And I don't know, I'll be honest, it wasn't a great session. As a teacher, some days you really nail it with the students. And I think they're just so deep into the post-production process of their own projects that any new information or revisited information about editing technique and tips and theory and all that sort of stuff just doesn't really land, because I don't know why. Maybe they're recognizing the mistakes they made in production. There's a number of them that didn't get enough coverage. Maybe they're seeing that, it was important to have a really good script before they started, and the flaws are starting to show. Because one of the key things I was talking about in an edit is how you will present a question to the audience, and then you'll give them the answer, right? So a good example is the classic Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. When that movie opens up, we just see this guy, right? They're giving us information that they're in a jungle somewhere and there's this treasure map and maybe this treasure, but it isn't until a gun gets pulled on him and this whip comes out and turns around, smacks the gun out of the villain's hand, and there we see for the first time the face of Indiana Jones. And I mean, Spielberg is, that's a brilliant, thing he did there, because the first time we see Indiana Jones, first of all, we want to know who this person is. Case in point with presenting the question. And it's edited and shot in such a way that when we finally do see who Indiana Jones is, we know who this character, what he's all about. He's this adventurer that can use a whip to take a gun out of a villain's hand, So that's kind of exciting. Anyway, so I did that, taught the students. Then I met with Richard Wright afterward, who we're working together on this animation project for the recognition story I'm writing. And we just kind of went over the previs real quick, maybe 20 minutes, what kind of things we need to nail down in our plan of pre-visualization before we start, ingesting and building assets and doing all the complicated 3D work that takes, a lot of precision and time. So we want to be as efficient as possible and get that ready. So I did that, and then I I drove to Martinsville, had a quick little lunch. I had a piece of pizza, like by the slice, and then we were at a coffee, so I drove to Warman and grabbed some coffee, and then I headed to Rostern to get a gym membership for my daughter, and at this 24-hour gym that was closed, but I worked that out and made other arrangements, picked up my son, drove back home, and started playing around with Sora a little bit to see if I can wrap my head around how to use that. Then Monique came home with some groceries, and we got a call from our daughter that she wants to celebrate her birthday, which is today, tonight. So the kids came in from the city out to the acreage, and I'm actually shirking my duties recording this right now. We're going to have a little brunch tonight at about 8 or 9 o'clock and celebrate my daughter's birthday. So yeah, that was my day. And I hope this was something you wanted to hear. And if not, well, I can't do much about that. So that was my day. And I'm going to end it there. So over and out. Oh, wait, there's more. Yeah. I had to book an appointment with the Edwards School of Business because they have this leadership course I want to take as part of the research for my master's thesis in screenwriting. So I'm going to meet with them and try to get permission to get into that MBA course. And then what else? Oh, our Airbnb have guests coming, so I found out about that, and I had to go check the water on that. Then rushed back up to the top part of Skullback Studios. I'm currently in the studio, and that is about all you need to know right now. To be continued on day 2, or part 2, chapter 2, volume 2. I don't know.